I don't know whether to do up or down, overrated or underrated. In today's video, we're gonna be talking through 12 property investing principles. We're gonna be starting off with 6 fundamental principles and then break down 6 advanced principles. I'm gonna share with you where I see value in each of these principles and whether I think they're overrated or underrated when it comes to investors using these principles for success. And if you're interested in these types of videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below and head over to purposeproperty.com.au if you're looking for a Brisbane-based buyer's agent. Now let's kick off with the fundamental principles. Principle number 1 is buy and hold strategies. Now, I think these are becoming underrated. And the reason is buy and hold infers that you're going to buy and hold the property for the long term. Now, what's happened with TikTok and Instagram and YouTube videos is buy and hold has become boring. People don't want to go buy and hold for 10 years and wait for their success. They want to have success now. They want to manifest it and bring it into reality. And so buy and hold has become quite an unpopular style, at least in the media anyway, in terms of an investing strategy. But at its core, buy and hold is what property investing is all about. You're buying an asset, you are renting that to someone who needs a home, someone who needs a roof over their head and who needs stability. And that's why a lease is drawn up between those two parties. So that for 12 or 24 months, the person leasing the property has confidence in their accommodation and where they're going to be staying. Now, the biggest secret to the buy and hold strategy is creating that long-term capital growth. I like to say that capital growth is what creates wealth and cash flow is what allows you to hold the property portfolio, especially in that accumulation phase. That can change a little bit in the consolidation phase, but we'll talk about that more later. So for me, buy and hold is one of those fundamental principles when it comes to property investing, and I think it's a little bit overlooked at this point in time. Fundamental principle number 2 is positive cash flow property. Now, there were a lot of spruikers 2-3 years ago talking about positive cash flow property. You can buy a house, the interest rates are 1.99%. Come on down and we'll get you some positive cash flow. Now, that was true. Pretty much everything you bought in 2021, 2022, even into 2023, depending on where you were buying, could have been positive cash flow. But that has gone out of the window. So the positive cash flow gung-ho people have now changed their strategies and changed their tact, and potentially now going for growth, even though that back then they were spruiking or selling positive cash flow property. Now, can you still get positive cash flow property in today's environment? Of course you can. If you've got enough money or enough deposit, any property can be positive cash flow. Or if you've got enough dwellings on a site, a house and granny flat, or a unit block, for example, and you've got a reasonable interest rate, even at 80% debt, that could still be neutral to positive cash flow. So for me, positive cash flow is a little bit overrated. And I think you still need to have positive cash flow and you still need to look at it in your property portfolio. But I think people chasing positive cash flow property has been a little bit oversold the last few years. Now, I really like positive cash flow property. It makes it easy to hold your assets. So you should find a balance between the buy and hold growth properties and positive cash flow properties to balance out your portfolio. Because at the end of the day, you are running a property business. You can't be minus $10,000 per house. You know, you buy one house, it's minus 10K. You buy 2 houses, it's minus 20K. You buy 5 houses, it's minus 50K. You can't live in that situation and then exit your day job because your day job is covering that minus $50,000 each year. So balancing out positive cash flow and negative gearing or negative cash flow properties can be a great strategy to grow that property portfolio and balance out that cash flow over time. Now, as you look to consolidate, that's where you should see more and more positive cash flow because you're drawing that income out of your property portfolio at that point in time. The way I like to think about it is a lot of people want to grow with a neutral to negatively geared portfolio and then maybe sell down or buy some higher yielding assets to then transition their asset base to more yield and to draw down on that positive cash flow. For Emily and I, we purchased a unit block in Coffs Harbour, and it's one of the best purchases we've made because we made that decision for the long term. That property at this point in time, I can reveal to you, brings in over $2,000 gross rental income per week. So that's over $100,000 per year on just one asset that we purchased. Now, we purchased that asset for $1.4 million in December 2021, and the property would be worth close to, if not $2 million at this point in time in 2024, based on the growth in the rents and based on the growth in the Coffs Harbour regional market. So look at your own portfolio, look at different strategies to create positive cash flow. But if you're buying a bread and butter house here in Southeast Queensland, don't expect that freestanding house to have positive cash flow at this point in time. Now, location, in my opinion, is probably a little bit underrated. I think it's very crucial about where you buy the property. Not just the city, not just the suburb, but the street and the block and the orientation and the future development potential of that block. I think location does a lot of the heavy lifting. There's some great property commentators, some guys out on the property couch that I used to listen to, and they would always talk about the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the property does the heavy lifting and 20% is in the asset itself, in the building. Now, a lot of people are chasing locations, and this can be a bit of a fallacy if you're chasing after hotspots. But if you're buying with good fundamentals and good land size, and you buy where the land value is the significant driver of growth in that property, that's where location is going to do the heavy lifting for you. When Emily and I look at properties, we look at the underlying government land value. We look at the resale of the land. We look at what we can do with that land down the track. Can we subdivide around a granny flat? And we look at where that property sits in that street and suburb and city, and where it's got some strong growth potential based on the fundamental analysis that we've done around supply and demand and future growth drivers. So do that for your own property investing journey. Look at the location, understand the fundamental principles behind it and why location does the heavy lifting, and potentially look for those properties that have those bigger land sizes that you can do more with the property and potentially get future value out of it down the track as well. The next one on our list in terms of core fundamentals is doing your due diligence. And I think this is also underrated. I think a lot of people go scrolling on realestate.com, go out for a few weekends and maybe purchase a home that way. Or they call a property manager out of town and say, hey, can you find me a place? Or I like this house that I've been looking at on real estate. You know, can you tell me what price it's going to sell for, and we'll get that deal done. Now you need to do your due diligence. Here in our business at Purpose Property, we use a two-step process. We do what's called our snapshot due diligence, where we look at a price guide, a rental guide, and 3 to 5 key points around why we like that property. Before we've done that, we've also done our analysis on the core suburbs, the property specifics, and the red flags around the specific purchase that we're looking for. So we've set our buying brief, and then we've gone out there and done our snapshot analysis. Once we're comfortable with that snapshot analysis, we then move to further due diligence. So we're doing a market analysis report. This is otherwise known as a CMA, a comparative market analysis report. And you can do this yourself. You can look at recent sales similar to the home you're looking at and price other properties as over or underrated, funnily enough, compared to the property you're looking at, and see where your property sits in that band of other sales that have recently occurred. You also want to look at the government land value, at where the sewer and water and electrical is. You also want to run your flood checks and look at fire and landslide and noise profiles and future developments and government infrastructure upgrades like highways widening. You want to assess all those things, school zones, in that one property purchase. So due diligence can be a little bit overlooked by people, and that's why leveraging off the professionals can be a great way for you to make sure that you're covered in terms of running your numbers, dotting your I's and crossing your T's when you're making one of the largest financial decisions you're going to make in your life by buying a property. Make sure you run that due diligence. The next one on our list in terms of fundamental principles is number 5, which is diversification. And I actually think this is a little bit overrated. Obviously, you've got concentration risk if you buy all your properties in the one location. And I probably have a little bit of concentration risk with Emily and I heavily buying here in Southeast Queensland because we know, understand, and we're backing this market over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But for us, as local area experts, having the team and boots on the ground and networks with agents and understanding the areas in detail, it gives us an advantage. I can't remember whether it was Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, but those guys talk about diversification being unnecessary if you're a specialist and you understand a localized market. For them, it was shares, and for me, it's property. So I don't need to diversify if I detail or intimately understand this market. Now, it does make sense to diversify in some ways. So Emily and I own a unit block in Coffs Harbour, which is in New South Wales. And that made sense from a land tax point of view and from the asset point of view in terms of what we were buying for higher cash flow. And so it does make sense to buy across multiple states to, again, balance your land tax, balance your risk, and diversify that way. But in some circumstances, you can go heavier into some markets rather than others if you are comfortable with the analysis that you've done. Now, fundamental principle number 6 is financial planning. And I think this is probably a little bit overrated. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, and I do my own financial planning. I tend to find with financial planners that they want to push people into buckets that make them money. Well, that makes sense. The financial planner doesn't have a job unless they make money in terms of the advice that they're providing people. Now, people might say that about me as a buyer's agent. You sell a course, you put out YouTube videos, you help people buy property in Brisbane. So of course you're going to tell them to buy property in Brisbane and not diversify and stick to the Brisbane market. Well, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll hear me say that you don't need to use my services. You don't need to use my services as a buyer's agent. You don't need to buy the course that we sell for under $800 at this point in time. And if you don't want to, you don't need to consume these free videos here on YouTube. But I hope these YouTube videos bring you great value. The thing with financial planning or financial planners is they can push people into assets that don't give them enough leverage, like property, and they can push them into products that are going to only pay them a commission. I'm very open with my clients in saying, if you should buy a property in Perth or in Adelaide or in Sydney or in Melbourne, because you know Melbourne at the moment, people want to be counter-cyclical and maybe you want to buy in Melbourne. Or Perth, it's had really strong growth the last 24 months. Maybe you want to try and ride that property wave over there. If you've decided to buy in Brisbane, then I might be the right buyer's agent for you. I never want people to feel pushed into using our buyer's agency services or to buy in Brisbane for that matter. Even I spoke to a client recently via messages, and I was saying to that client, they might be looking elsewhere to buy, and we encourage that with our clients. If you don't feel that next purchase should be here in Brisbane or in Southeast Queensland, we can talk about the strategic or the overarching property plan, and then you can go out there and execute with a different buyer's agent or a different resource, or do it yourself if that's what you're wanting to do. So I think you should create a financial plan, but you don't necessarily need a financial planner. The financial plan should outline the goals that you're looking to achieve, what kind of asset base you're wanting to create, and what kind of passive income you want in retirement. I think it's very important to set those goals and map out the large steps that you're going to take towards getting that asset base or towards reaching that financial plan. For example, Emily and I started with a $2.5 million, that grew to $3.5 million, and now $6 million property portfolio in terms of our targets. And we've stretched that target now to $10 million over the next few years to grow our asset base. And setting those targets gives you a goal to work towards, and it also allows you to work backwards. So for Emily and I, if we want to get to 10 million, I might need to buy another 4 $1 million assets. Or I might want to buy a commercial property for $3 million and put $1 million of cash down or equity down. So there's different ways that you can get there, but you need to look at your own portfolio and then work backwards in terms of the properties you need to buy. And whether you do that with myself as your buyer's agent or your mortgage broker or a financial planner, that's okay. But I think it's also important to have that detailed financial plan for you to have those goals. All right, now we're leveling up. We're going to be talking about the advanced principles when it comes to property investing. And number one on our list is leverage. Now, I think leverage is underrated. I love leverage. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing tool that allows us to have maximized volume in terms of the property market and see leverage gains. This also puts us at risk of leverage losses. So if I'm able to put $1 million down and control a $5 million asset base, which is a 20% deposit on a $5 million residential property portfolio, if that property portfolio goes up by 10%, I've made $500,000 of equity by putting down $1 million or 20% and $4 million coming from the bank. And if the property market has gone up by 10%, I've made that $500,000 tax-free unless I sell. Now that's where leverage is amazing. Obviously, you get magnified losses as well. So if the property market pulls back 10%, I then lost $500,000 in terms of my equity. And that means you would be down $500,000 in equity if you sold out of those properties at that point in time. This goes back to the very first point, which was the buy and hold strategy and why property is a long-term investing game. Because the idea is that you hold that larger asset base for a long period of time and you get the effects of leverage and compound growth working together. So I think leverage is rather underrated in terms of people using it to their benefit and to their success and working with different brokers and banks to continue their borrowing capacity and moving forward. The second advanced principle on my list is value add strategies. And I also think these are rather underrated. The reason is I think a lot of people don't want to do the hard work. A lot of people just want to kick back, get home from work, play PlayStation, watch TV. The Olympics is on at the moment, which is quite exciting, seeing the Australians get gold in the swimming and lots of other sports. And we're watching the surf this morning with my little boys. And that's great. You've got to have your relaxation time. But if you want to do value add strategies, you're going to have to commit your time to add value. That means project management or working with the right people who can project manage for you, or getting your hands dirty if you don't have a lot of capital behind you. The reason Emily and I got into renovations was it was a pretty low barrier to entry. You could watch a ton of YouTube videos. We've got some renovation series out there on YouTube around our own reno projects. And we could get our hands dirty and create value. Tradies charge somewhere between $50 to $130 an hour. And so if you're willing to do some extra work yourself, you can create value that way. Now, there are higher leverage tasks like the property developments, but they're also higher risk and higher reward. And that's the reason that I personally like smaller subdivisions or granny flats over doing major land subdivisions, because the capital intensity of those bigger projects. So obviously you've got to look at your own skill set and your own time and resources. If you're a doctor and you're earning amazing money in your day job, it doesn't make sense for you to do much value add. Why not just buy and hold some quality property? But if you're someone on a $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, $120,000 even income, it can be well worth it to you to try these value add strategies. And that's what Emily and I have done in our own journey through those renovations to add value and move forward faster by pulling out equity on our projects, refinancing, and going again. The next one on our list when it comes to advanced property principles is tax benefits of property investing. And these are absolutely overrated. You'll hear spruikers and people talk about tax benefits. Get your negative gearing in, get your depreciation benefits. These are all tax outcomes. That's like the cart pushing the horse rather than the horse pushing the cart. You're putting the tax benefits first is the wrong way around when it comes to property investing. Yes, you should absolutely use this advanced principles and understand your tax benefits and leverage those tax benefits and get the most amount possible in your property journey. But no, I don't think you should go out and buy a property just based on the tax benefits. You'd be amazed how many people I talk to hundreds of people, and how many people come to me and say, Luke, I just want to buy a property with you that gives me negative gearing. And they don't lead with, Luke, I just want you to buy a property that has significant capital growth potential. They're leading with the wrong thing if you're putting the tax benefits first. So understand the benefits of negative gearing. Understand that if the property makes a loss, you might get 30 cents in the dollar back in that scenario. And understand in depreciation that you can claim the depreciation in each financial year, but it will impact your capital gains tax because it's devaluing the building, and therefore you might need to pay more capital gains tax when you sell. So understand those principles, but don't let the tax advantages or tax outcomes be the decision maker. Focus more on the capital growth and cash flow that a property can bring you rather than just the tax benefits. Advanced principle number 4 is market timing. Oh, underrated, overrated, somewhere in the middle, to be perfectly honest. I'm leaning slightly towards underrated, but it's hard to know because depending on who you talk to, market timing is the be all and end all. You must time the market every single time and get that 1 to 3 short year kind of growth. And for others, market timing is a longer time horizon and you're just trying to buy in good markets and let those big up cycles take the property up over a 3, 5, 10 year period. Yes, you need to time the market in my opinion. You can't go and buy in Darwin if you don't think that there's going to be strong capital growth in the Darwin market over the next 7 to 10 years. So I'm more of the long upswing type investor that I'm looking at that long-term trajectory and making my investing decisions on that basis. Now, if you watch any other YouTubers out here who talk about property investing like myself, you'll hear a lot of them talk about market timing being critical for you to fast track your property portfolio because you want to get that short, sharp growth in years 1 to 3 to allow you to pull out the equity and then go again and buy the second and third property. Now that can be a valid strategy, but you just want to be sure that you've also got that overarching long-term fundamental growth as well. And if that's the case, that's okay. You're probably doing the right thing buying the short-term and the long-term market growth potential. But just be wary of that. You don't want to just buy only because of the short-term market timing. That's why I really like the value add strategy in the advanced principles section that we're talking about, because you can buy with that overarching long-term growth potential and you can add value, and that's the way I like to personally fast track. I think that's a little bit more risk averse and keeps me a little bit more comfortable and gives me that sleep at night factor. So market timing, a little bit over, a little bit underrated depending on who you talk to. I think it's important, but definitely not the be all and end all. I think you should be taking that overarching approach, not just focusing on the next 1 to 2 years. The 5th advanced property investing principle is risk management. This is underrated. You need to have the property manager, the insurance, the buffers in place to mitigate the risks in your property journey. There's a saying out there that things can and will go wrong when it comes to anything in life. So if things can and will go wrong, then you need to be prepared for those situations. Now, I had someone on the phone the other day ask me, Luke, how do you have such a low insurance premium? We maximize the excess on our home policies. So instead of having a $1,000 excess or a $2,000 excess, we have the $5,000 excess to make sure that we have the minimum premium on our home insurance. This probably saves us $1,000 to $2,000 a year per property in terms of insurance, and means if we did have a house fire, if something was to go significantly wrong, we could pay the $5,000 and the rest would be looked after. But these are quite rare occurrences, so that's why we're happy with a higher excess and just having home insurance. Obviously, it's up to you how you want to insure landlords, home and contents insurance. It's totally up to you, but that's what we do in our own situations. When it comes to property managers, we want to get quality property management. We want a local area expert who's hands-on and just generally deals in property management. If you deal in the big agencies where these up and coming sales agents are just doing the property management job for 1 to 2 years, then you're generally not going to get the best service. For Emily and I, we've just purchased some properties recently, and so we're going to be employing a property manager who's experienced and local and just deals in property management, and that's where you get the higher quality and better service. Yes, you need to pay for it, but it will make your property portfolio a lot more stress-free in the long run. So a little bit underrated. I definitely think people need to look at their risk management. Advanced principle is dealing with property professionals, like a buyer's agent. I think this is somewhat in the middle as well. It's a little bit overrated, a little bit underrated, depending on who you talk to. For me, it comes down to the individual. It's all about the value that someone can bring you. When people work with myself, they ask me, Luke, why would I choose you? Why would I choose Purpose Property to be my buyer's agent here in Brisbane or in the greater Brisbane market? The things I like to come back to is you're leveraging myself and the team's time, knowledge, and skills here in the Brisbane market. We are boots on the ground, working 6 days a week, full time, buying here in the Southeast Queensland market. So if you think you can come home, sit on your laptop 2 to 3 hours at night, make a few extra phone calls and texts, and compete with us, by all means, go out there and compete with us in the market. The other thing I say is I'm a chartered accountant by trade, which is quite unique. There's not many people out there who have done their chartered accountant status and also built a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. That's the other thing I think your professionals should have if you're going to work with them. If you're going to work with a broker, a buyer's agent, and a strategist for that matter, anyone who's going to help you in that property investing journey, they should have done what you're trying to achieve. So Emily and I are sitting around a $6.5 million asset base, and we're growing that towards a $10 million asset base at this point in time. So we've got the personal runs on the board. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, and we are doing this full time. We've got the experience and knowledge to help people execute here in the Southeast Queensland market. So those are the key differences that Purpose Property brings in my business. And you should be asking these questions, whether you're using myself or another buyer's agent or broker or specialist, when you're seeking that professional help in your property investing journey. If the person can't demonstrate that they've done it themselves or they've helped others do what you're trying to achieve, then they're unlikely to be the right professional for you in terms of giving you the right advice. Of course, you can consume lots and lots of free content like here on the YouTube channel. So professional advice can be worth it for some people and not for others if they're wanting to do it all themselves. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think's over or underrated on this list when it comes to fundamental and advanced property investing principles? If you're interested in growing your wealth and you want to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, head over to our website and click on course to see all of the modules and steps in breaking down and building that multi-million-dollar property portfolio. And that course is so for less than $1,000, you can pick that course up today, and it's going to give you hours of content in building a multi-million-dollar property portfolio through residential real estate. Otherwise, leave your comments down below around what you think is over or underrated, and click this video over here because YouTube thinks you'll really like it. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.